Well, it's been a while since Bendy and the Dark Revival came out, hasn't it? Why, it must have been half a year at least. Or maybe only 3 months. Okay, well, it doesn't matter how long it's been out for, because the hunger of a fan base cannot be sated. The Dark Revival was an excellent game and a truly gargantuan step up from the original, but there's always going to be that age-old question. What now? What comes next? Bendy and the Ink Machine finished with a pretty open-ended conclusion, but Dark Revival definitely has more of an open and shut case when it comes to its storyline. Wilson is gone, the Ink Demon seems to have vanished, Joey is dead forever, and there's no more threat to the Ink world now with Audrey in control. Or so it seems. Because, honestly, the only one of these I truly believe is that Wilson is gone for good. He's a great antagonist, but he's had his time in the spotlight and his story is over. But there's so much more that can be done with what Dark Revival has created. First and foremost, we have to talk about Joey Drew. The man was, in essence, the main antagonist of the first game in the series. And it ended with the man being tantalisingly out of reach of us, the player, mocking us and forcing us to repeat the cycle every single time. And then in the Dark Revival, it seems like he just gets off scot-free, just for being a dad? Call me crazy, but I feel like there's something more going on here. More than just this benevolent old reincarnation. While he might not have placed the real-life Henry into the cycle, the fact remains that he was a spiteful, arrogant, sleazy, wicked, and a very, very good liar. Which also happens to be why he's my favourite character of the series. He even talks about wicked creatures coming from the puzzles that never came from his pen. Like, his pen wasn't used to create a world that was a revenge, fever dream, nightmare fantasy to shove his once best friend into. Like, come on, man. Which might be why I'm about to say what I'm saying. I don't think we're done with him quite yet. You don't just take the main antagonist of the series, the most fleshed out character with a whole book in his biography, and have him die off screen between games. Whatever happens next, we've not seen the last of Ink Joey at the very least, that much I'm certain of. And I can't imagine there's going to be more installments in the Bendy franchise without its company namesake being important in some capacity. But what of the other main antagonist of the sequel? The most monstrous being of the original and the namesake of the actual franchise. What of Bendy himself? He's most definitely the character with the most open-ended potential of all the protagonists and antagonists. I mean, we finally have a manifestation of the little cartoon man in the real world, and he honestly didn't really do much story-wise in Dark Revival. He's more of a fascinating concept more than anything else. Like, how much is he his own being? How much is he the Ink Demon? Is he just the Ink Demon in a little cartoon form? What can he do exactly now that he's in the real world? All avenues to explore, but I think it really depends on the plot of the next mainline entry. So let's get into that can of worms, shall we? Gent, the shadowy corporation looming behind so much of the Bendy universe, is so fascinating to me. In the original game, they were little more than a background entity, a reason for the simple animation studio to have access to a 10-foot square, incredibly complex ink machine and not too much more. We couldn't exactly offer much speculation on them because there wasn't really much to speculate. But, as it's done to most things in the series, Dark Revival has changed that, to such an incredible extent. The Gent Corporation has gone from a background entity to a full-on inevitable force in the Bendy lore. They are here for their machine, and by hook or by crook they are going to obtain it. And while we're not exactly sure how they went about it by the end, like maybe Archgate gave it up after causing so many to go missing, or perhaps just straight up taking it by force as they promised they would.
Me when, Stealing, theft. I like pilfering. I'm a sneaky poacher. I like taking things that do not belong to me.
And hey, perhaps if cartoon Bendy has been separated and placed into the real world, the ink demon still remains within his realm of darkness, trapped within the machine. Well, putting that aside for now, I think this is where things get interesting. Not only in terms of the lore, after all, we actually have to address just how the machine in its world works. Like, do these sketches have any specific impact, or considering the fact we've never truly seen someone leave the ink world, like Henry was always trapped and Audrey was off screen, so how does that work? But not just that, also in terms of the darkness. Take the fact that the Meatly recently put up a poll on his Twitter about what the fanbase would want to see from the rating of the Bendy franchise in the future, and then take into account the fact that a darker, more frightening direction won that poll by orders of magnitude. And I think we're going to see some truly horrifying creations from Gent and its CEO, Alan Gray, set up to be just the most cold and horrible of people. Not even the charisma of Joey, or, and this is just speculation, nor even the bitter reasoning for his actions of Wilson. Just a straight up horrible dude that just wants power. And for horror, I think that will work wonderfully. Hell, Dark Revival was already a massive step up from Ink Machine in terms of the graphic horror of the series. You'll know from my last video on the topic, and while you're at it, it would be oh so nice if you could go ahead and like and or subscribe. I'm just saying. We don't know exactly what it is Gent will be doing with this brilliant creation. That's in part because of how much Gent is a mystery, yes, but it's also in part because of the Ink Machine itself. We still don't really know how its more fantastical abilities came to be, and to be entirely honest, I am absolutely fine with that. Keep it vague, some things are better left unexplained. But also, as of Dark Revival, we don't really know what it can do? Like, yes, it can create and incate alternate worlds that can be bent and shaped to someone's will, but in the real world, is it still able to create inky creatures, take souls? I suppose the nail in the coffin will be whether we'll get to meet one Thomas Connor in the flesh, and whatever's next for Bendy, with Gent being set up in the end and everything. Hopefully we'll be able to answer what is real and what was fiction in the original game. Yes, we do have Bendy at the end of Dark Revival, but that seems to be to do with Audrey specifically. Go figure. Are they making this up as they go along? It certainly seems to be that way, but I don't know. I'm so intrigued by this world and the characters within it that I'm most certainly up for the ride to see what happens next. What else could be done with this series though? What characters are still mysterious enough to warrant an inclusion in this video? Let me throw one out from my old theorist heart. Even if my theorist heart is very small and wrinkly because, oh lordy, I am pathetically bad at guessing upcoming plot twists, but let's just ignore that right now. Nathan Arch. Now hear me out. I'm very aware that me thinking Nathan Arch is still irrelevant could be all to do with the fact that on the lead up to Bendy and the Dark Revival, pretty much every other theorist at the time, along with me, thought it was pretty cut and dry that this mysterious figure of Archgate would be the game's antagonist, or at least play a major role. And now that it's actually out, well, yeah, we got that one completely wrong. Or did we? Okay, but seriously, hear me out. Until Dark Revival, we had very little information about or from Nathan. But now that we do, what we have is very, very interesting. His comments in the Illusion of Living book, yes, I know, a book, but hear me out, it's actually a pretty great read, can't lie, are particularly fascinating. Despite his claims that he's only making sure to fact-check Joey, every single comment he makes seems to be making himself look either more presentable to the world or push Joey even further down, making the man look even more pathetic than he already does. I'm just saying, strange notes for a man apparently so benevolent and kind. In fact, perhaps the singular most wholesome character of the whole series. Weird, isn't it? A reminder, the ink world is not reality. It's fiction, and can be altered by someone's desires, which is what makes the inevitable next entrance in the series so fascinating, because it's going to be in the real world. But for now, in the ink world, if those desires were Wilson's or Nathan's himself, it could be very possible that a very different picture was painted than of reality. I wouldn't put money on him returning in a major role, but I could see it. Now, who else could play a role? Of course, I could certainly see Henry stepping in at some point, especially if he'll be stepping into the real world, even if I don't think he's the best character. Because again, was Joey really telling the truth about Henry being an ink version? If so, well, perhaps we'll see some kind of real life Henry. Or maybe not. Same goes for all the other Joey Drew Studios workers, of course. Sammy, Allison, Bernie, even Susie, but her fate is now one of the most up in the air of all the cast, like was she actually sacrificed or not? I swear to God, if we get real Wally, the world will be at peace. There's so much that can happen here in the future, and I can't wait to see what the Meatly does with this strange little franchise. What do you want to see from the third in the trilogy? Let me know in the comments. Okay, I think that's all for now. Until next time, friends.
I'm gonna get you out of here. I promise you.
If you can, like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
You don't belong in there. I'm gonna get you out.